months had been the most thrilling things that had happened to him in his life. But it had also been one of the most frightening, and he was pleased it was all over. They left early the next day, before the sun rose above the hills. The morning air was sharp and fresh, and the men rubbed their hands together to keep them warm as they waited for the truck to set off. Akimbo sat in the cab with his father, while the men perched in the back with their equipment. His mother had given him a flask of tea and some sandwiches for his breakfast, and as the truck set off along the bumpy road, Akimbo unwrapped his sandwiches and began to eat. As the sun came up, it painted the plains around them with gold. Flights of birds rose up from the lakes and treetops. Herds of zebra stared at the passing vehicle before stampeding off in a cloud of dust. An antelope and its tiny calf skittered in panic across the road in front of them. Akimbo had not slept well that night, as he was too excited by the prospect of the trip. Now, as it became hotter, he found himself dozing off, being woken from time to time by a bump in the road, but drifting back into sleep again. They stopped once or twice before they reached the farm. The men in the back got out, stretched their legs, and brewed up a pot of tea on a fire of brushwood. Then, at last, just after noon, they saw the farm they were looking for, a cluster of distant buildings surrounded by trees. As the truck drew to a halt outside the farmhouse, the farm dogs barking loudly and defensively, the farmer came onto the veranda of his house and waved a friendly greeting. Akimbo sat at the foot of his father's chair while the two men discussed the problem. "There have been 5 attacks now," said the farmer gravely. "All of them have happened within the last month." Akimbo's father nodded. "Tell me about them," he said. The farmer sighed. "I've lost 12 cattle," he said. "In each case it's happened at night. The lion has broken into the cattle pen and killed 1 or 2 beasts. He's dragged them around a bit, trying to get them out, but eventually he's given up and had his meal right there." "Has anybody seen it happen?" asked Akimbo's father. The farmer smiled. "I put a man on duty at the pen for a few nights, but when he heard the commotion, he decided to run back up here. I can't blame him, of course, but it means that he didn't see what happened. He said he thought there was only 1 lion, though." Akimbo's father thought for a while. "It's probably the same lion," he said. "You get one animal that can't be bothered to hunt for prey out in the bush, and it picks on a soft target." He paused for a few moments before continuing. "The trouble is that the only way to stop it is to shoot the lion or remove it. You can't teach them new ways." "Do you think you'll be able to trap it?" the farmer asked, sounding rather doubtful. Akimbo's father laughed. "It may take us a few days," he said. "It may take us a week, but we'll certainly try. And I think I can say that either it'll catch us or we'll catch it." Akimbo swallowed hard. He knew that his father was half joking, but there would be danger whichever way one looked at it. Still, he had asked to come, and he was definitely not going to change his mind now. The Trap. Later, as they left the farmhouse, Akimbo's father told him of his plan. "The last thing we want is to shoot the lion," he explained. "We'll try to trap him if at all possible." "But how do you do that?" asked Akimbo. "Will you use one of your special darts?" Akimbo had seen a rhinoceros trapped that way before. The animal had to be moved from one part of the reserve to another, and the rangers had shot at it with a special dart gun. The dart contained a drug that sent the rhino to sleep for half an hour, so the rangers were able to load it into a truck and move it safely. "We can't use a dart at night," said his father. "We won't get close enough to see the lion properly, and if we had lights it would keep well away." "So how will we get him?" Akimbo persisted. "We'll set up a trap," said his father. "We'll put a goat in one part of the trap. Lions can't resist goat meat. And then when the lion goes in, the door will spring shut." Akimbo's father made it all sound so simple. But Akimbo thought it could hardly be easy to trap so large a creature as a lion. Would the trap be strong enough? What if the lion lunged against the sides? Would they hold? They walked back together to where the men were standing near the truck. Akimbo's father told them to climb aboard again, and, together with one of the farmer's assistants to show them the way, they set off along the farm road that led to the cattle stockade. All that afternoon the men worked on the construction of the trap. It was made of stout poles, which they had brought with them, and these were dug into the ground to make a strong fence. Thick ropes were then knotted around the poles to keep them together, and then struts of wood were nailed in place. It was hot work under the afternoon sun, and the men had to break frequently for water, but at last, just before sunset, it was finished. Akimbo, who had played his part in fetching and carrying hammers and nails, was pleased that it was done. "There," said his father, "that should do the trick. We'll try it out tomorrow." Akimbo was secretly disappointed that they were not going to try and catch the lion that night, but he was also hungry and tired, and tomorrow would come around soon enough anyway. They slept that night in a spare room in the farmhouse. Akimbo dropped off to sleep more or less immediately, but he had vivid dreams, and he awoke halfway through the night, cold and afraid. As he lay on his bed, he was sure that he heard a roar somewhere in the night. Had the lion come again? It would be just their luck to miss him on the very night of their arrival. He strained his ears again, but there was nothing except the sound of the insects of the night, a soft, continuous clicking and screeching that he knew would last at least until the first light of morning. They took the farmer out the next day to show him the trap. No lions had come last night, in spite of what Akimbo thought he had heard, and the cattle were all counted and found to be safe. "It's been almost 5 days since he attacked," said the farmer. "I'm sure that he'll be back soon." "We'll be ready," said Akimbo's father. "We'll stake out the bait tonight and see what happens." Akimbo tried hard to conceal his mounting excitement. It was a long time until nightfall, and he wished that it would come sooner. But he was not worried by the slowness of the hours. He worried only that his father might tell him to stay in the farmhouse tonight. If that happened, he would miss all the excitement, and he could not bear the thought of that. "Where are we going to hide tonight?" he asked his father cautiously once the farmer had gone. Akimbo's father looked down at his son. "Oh, I don't think you should be out here," he said. "It'll be far too dangerous. You must stay in the farmhouse, as you did last night." Akimbo's face fell. It was just what he had feared. What was the point of coming all this way if he were going to miss the real excitement? He looked at his father, and his disappointment must have been written so large all over his face that his father suddenly seemed to soften. "Do you really want to spend the night out here with us?" he asked. "It'll be cold and uncomfortable. You won't have a nice warm bed to sleep in." "I do want to do it," Akimbo pleaded. "I don't want to miss what happens." Akimbo's father seemed to waver for a moment before he gave in. "All right," he said, "as long as you keep well away from everything." Akimbo was happy to agree. He was keen to see what happened when the lion came, but not at all eager to get too close. There was little to do that afternoon, and so Akimbo spent his time wandering about the farmyard. He helped one of the stockmen round up some sheep, and he was given a roasted corn cob as a reward. After that, though, it was just a question of waiting. At about 4 o'clock, Akimbo's father hailed him from the truck. "We're going now," he called out. "Come along." Akimbo raced over to join his father and the men. He noticed that one of the men was holding a young goat, and Akimbo realized that this must be the bait. He felt sorry for the little creature, with its frightened black eyes and its sad, hopeless bleating, but he knew that if the trap worked, it would be safe from the lion. But would the trap work? His father seemed so confident that it would, but Akimbo himself was not so sure. Akimbo shivered as he thought of it. Perhaps it would have been better to stay in the